In the spring of 1846, a fellow sat down and wrote a guidebook to a road. Told folks headed for California there was a shortcut, faster, easier, saved you the better part of 300 miles. Families read that book, careful families, smart families, and they believed it. Now there's just one small thing about that shortcut. The man who wrote it down had never once traveled it, and near half the folks that trusted him never come down out of them mountains. Pull up a chair. Let's set the record straight. Now, folks hear Donner Party and they picture a pack of greenhorns who didn't know better. That ain't who these people were. These were solid, well-off Illinois families. The Reeds, the Donners, the kind that don't do a thing without thinking it through. James Reed loaded a wagon so grand it had a stove in it and a second story for the beds. This was not a man cutting corners. He'd planned this trip for a year. So keep that in your mind the whole way through, friend. What happened to these people did not happen because they were foolish. It happened because they trusted the wrong piece of paper. And that piece of paper come from a fellow named Lansford Hastings. Now, Hastings had himself a book, The Immigrant's Guide to Oregon and California, and Hastings had himself a dream. He'd taken a shine to California, and he figured if he could pull enough Americans out there over his own particular road, why, he might just end up an important man in it, maybe run the place. So the book didn't just describe a shortcut. The book was selling one. The regular road to California was long, but it was known. Folks had wore ruts in it. Every water hole, every crossing, somebody'd been there and lived to write it down. Hastings' shortcut swung down south of the Great Salt Lake and cut across the middle. On the map, it looked like sense. On the map, it always does. So out on the trail, at a little crossing called the Little Sandy, the companies come to the fork in the argument. Most of them said, "We'll take the old road, thank you kindly." But a piece of the group liked the sound of Hastings' shortcut. They split off to go their own way, and they picked themselves a captain to lead 'em. A steady, decent, well-liked older man, fellow named George Donner. And that, right there, is the only reason we call it the Donner Party. The man got a whole tragedy named after him for the crime of being agreeable. Now here's the part that'll sit with you. Before they ever committed to it, they got warned. Back at a fort along the way, Reed run into an old mountain man named Jim Clyman, and Clyman wasn't guessing. He had just come east over that very country, rode it his own self, and Reed knew the man. They'd soldiered together years back. And Clyman looked him in the eye and told him plain, "Take the regular road and do not leave it. The cutoff is worse than they're saying. It'll ruin you." And Reed, smart, careful, year of planning Reed says, "Well, but Hastings' way is nearer." Nearer. He'd rather believe the book than the man standing in front of him who'd just walked it. And Lord, don't we all. I had a neighbor, swore up and down he knew a back way to town that'd shave off 10 minutes, every single time. Didn't matter that the back way had a low bridge, a loose dog, and a stretch that flooded if a cloud so much as thought about rain. He'd sooner sit stuck at that bridge than admit the long way was the fast way. Now, that fella lost 10 minutes. These folks were about to find out what that same stubborn street costs when the stakes ain't 10 minutes. So they get to a little trading post, Fort Bridger, where a fella could ask a local for the honest word on the road ahead. Trouble is, the honest word cost that local money. See, the regular route didn't come past his post no more. sent all the traffic somewheres else. But Hastings Cutoff ran right by his door. So you can guess exactly what kind of advice that man was handing out. "Oh, the Cutoff! Fine road! Wagons do it all the time." Wagons had not done it all the time. Wagons had scarcely done it at all. And here's the fella who was supposed to be guiding 'em, Hastings himself. He'd gone on ahead with an earlier bunch, left the Donner Group a note stuck on a stick, and the note said, more or less, "Don't take the way I took, it's no good. Wait right here and I'll come back and show you a better one." They waited. He did not come back. Sent word to try a different canyon and left 'em to it. Their guide had guided himself clean out of sight. So now they got to build the road their book promised was already there. Into the Wasatch Mountains they go, hacking a track through brush and boulder and timber with axes in their bare hands, foot by foot. It took 'em the better part of 3 weeks to claw through country the book had made sound like a Sunday drive. 3 weeks, and every day of it was a day gone they were never getting back. And then the book had told 'em there'd be a dry stretch across the salt flats, maybe 2 days without water. It was closer to 5. 80 mile of blistering white nothing. The oxen, the whole engine of the journey, the animals that pulled every pound they owned, the oxen give out, and some run off crazed hunting water and were never found. Reed's own team gone. Wagons got left settin' out there in the salt. They walked out of that desert poorer, slower, and shy the very animals they'd need to climb the mountains at the far end. Now, here's where folks get it twisted. Everybody tells the Donner story like it's a story about a mountain winter, like the snow come out of nowhere and got 'em. But sit with what we just walked through. The 3 weeks in the Wasatch, the 5 days in the salt, the dead oxen, the lost wagons, the whole month that shortcut swallowed. By the time the first flake ever fell, the disaster was already done. It had been done for weeks, done back at that quiet little fork in the road, in good weather, with everybody healthy. The snow didn't start this. The snow just showed up to collect. They finally stagger back onto the regular road they'd left, the one Clyman told them to never leave, weeks behind where they ought to be, low on food, low on oxen, low on time. And the whole race now come down to one thing. Could they get over the last wall, the Sierra Nevada, before the passes closed for winter? Understand, in a normal year, they'd have had time to spare. That month the shortcut ate, that was the exact month they needed. That was the cushion. They reached the foot of those mountains at the tail end of October, and 1846 was not of a mind to be forgiven. The snow come early that year, come heavy. They got within a few miles of the top, a few miles, and the pass filled in ahead of them and closed behind them, and that was that. Trapped. High up in the deep of it, with winter shut like a door. 80-some souls, men, women, and a great many children. I'm not going to dwell in them camps with you, friend. It was long, and it was cold past what a body can rightly picture, and the food give out, and the dying started, and did not stop. What some of the living had to do to stay living up there is the part everybody remembers, and it's the part I'll leave be, because it was the worst thing that ever happened to them, not the interesting thing that ever happened to us. Rescue couldn't even reach 'em till the middle of February. Come on foot, over the top, through snow up past a man's waist, and of the 80-some that got caught in those mountains, near half never come down. Now, it'd be easy to close this out on the horror of that winter and leave you shivering, but the winter ain't the lesson. The lesson happened back in the sunshine, back at that fork with full bellies and healthy oxen and a mountain man begging 'em to take the long way. Every awful thing that come after was already sealed in that one bright, ordinary afternoon, when they looked at a known road and an unknown one, and a book whispered faster. And here's the thing about that shortcut that I can't get past. It wasn't even shorter. When it was all tallied, Hastings Cutoff run longer than the regular road, longer and slower, and it took the one thing they could not spare, their time. The shortcut that promised to save 'em was the thing that cost 'em everything they had. And you want to know the cruelest part? The trains that stayed on the old road that same summer, the long way, the slow way, the boring way, they rolled down into California by the fall, dusty, tired, alive, all of 'em. The regular road was longer, the regular road was slower, and the regular road got folks where they were going. So the next time something promises to save you the trouble, the shortcut, the easy way, the fellow with a map and a reason to want you on his road, you go on and ask who drew that map, and whether they ever once walked it. Because the long way's got one thing the shortcut never can. Somebody's already come back from it to tell you it can be done. And that's how it really went. Good neighbors come back. So go on and subscribe, and I'll save you a chair.